to talk to people with whom they disagree about this issue in a much more, civil manner. I think that would be.
All right. Our guest today is somebody we've had on before who's really, really interesting. I enjoy talking to him. I enjoy hearing his perspective, and I especially enjoy hearing about his work. He is a professor and an author, and he has a new book out that we want to talk to him about. David Yamane, how are you, sir?
Hey, man, I'm doing well, thanks. It's been a while, but I'm always glad to be back to chat with you all.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time. Boy, what a crazy time, right?
I just had an event for my book here in my hometown of Half Moon Bay up in Northern California, and just about 30 minutes before it started, then this news breaks about Biden pulling out. And it seems like I was doing another event one time, and they had the Trump convictions come out. It's always something I'm competing with for attention.
It's crazy. It's kind of crazy what's going on. I wish things would slow down a little bit. What do you before we talk about your book? And I really want to talk a lot about your book because it sounds interesting. I mean, what do you study culture? You study, and specifically you study gun culture. What are your thoughts? I mean, when an assassination attempt, from a guy who with an AR. You know what I mean? Like when the sides are a little jumbled, I guess is maybe a way to put it. What does that do to the culture? What does that do to the outside culture? And I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think that it's in the initial response because it is an assassination attempt on someone who's a presidential candidate. Is you think this is like somehow ideologically motivated. But then as you try and find out more about the shooter, then you're like, maybe this is just another case of a mass shooting that didn't become a mass shooting, like a disaffected young man, who takes a rifle from his house and, wants to make a name for himself somehow. Seemed like he was bullied in school and didn't get on the rifle team. So, if he had done it in a grocery store or in a school, then we would think it was something different. But because it was at a political event, then it has this additional weight and those additional questions. But I'm not even sure that it necessarily was anything other than a young man trying to make a name for himself.
Yeah, I think I think you're exactly right. I think the first couple hours I was thinking, oh man, this is the result of somebody who disagrees. But I think it didn't take long for it to appear to be something diagnosable. And yeah. I don't think we'll ever know. It doesn't sound like we're ever going to know exactly, but there are definitely some hints and some similarities with past, But yeah. Do you think that people who are does this this type of incident? Do you think? I mean, just shooting from the hip. No pun intended. Do you think that this affects the anti-gun crowd? Does it make them more anti-gun, or do you think that this did anything to those lines, or did this make anybody rethink their position on either side?
I don't really. I think that for people who are already think that AR-15 should be banned, this is just another reason for AR-15s to be banned, and for people who are comfortable having those as civilian-owned weapons, and they just think like. He just happened to use the most popular rifle out there. If a hunting rifle was the most popular rifle, that's what he would have used. So it's a sense. I think a lot of these events are just Rorschach tests, right? So the thing happens, and everybody interprets the event from their existing positions.
David, you just put very succinctly a point that I keep trying to make, and I keep trying to make clearly, and you just put it very, very clearly that. The only reason he picked that kind of rifle is it's the most popular kind of rifle. If another kind of rifle was the most popular kind of rifle, that's the one he would have picked. Why doesn't that resonate with the other side? The anti-gun side. Do you think that it's just this is something I can use to further my opinion, or do you think they really truly don't understand what you just explained and the way you just explained it?
Yeah, I think from the other side, the perspective is, well, I don't really care if that's the most popular rifle. It's still a rifle that no civilian should own, and so it's just a basic discomfort with that particular type of firearm, even if, we all can, do the thing of saying, well, if it's a Mini 14, has the same functionality, et cetera, just looks different, so people don't get freaked out about it as much. And, so I think that there is, for people who are not involved with guns, who are not involved with gun culture, who don't know gun A from gun B, it just is a scary-looking rifle that gets used in a lot of terrible events. And then, if you don't stand to lose anything from banning a particular car, like I don't drive an electric car, I could ban electric cars. It doesn't affect me at all. So I think, that's the way it's looked at. It's like, I don't care if it's popular or, oh my God, that's the most popular rifle in America. That's terrible. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's the perspective that coming from, even though, we don't know whether, he took a bad shot or he had bad aim or, wind or what, how did he miss? Trump turned his head, but if he had, a hunting rifle with a scope on it from that range, he could have took his head off.
Yeah. Quite literally. It is kind of in the way you say it, the same sentence said two different ways means two different things. You could say, hey, it's the most popular gun in America, or you could say it's the most popular gun in America, and it's got two different meanings completely, which is always so interesting to me. It's
and, the other thing I'd just say is, this is just another one of those cases of, we can understand that it happened and we can try to understand why it happened, but we can also look and say, this should have not happened, right? As far, it's an event that took place that didn't have to take place. Totally preventable.
In a lot of ways. There are a lot of ways to have prevented this. There are 100 ways this could have been prevented without banning guns. There are so many mistakes and so many laws. Okay, so let's talk about your book. It's called Gun Curious, which, by the way, I think is kind of funny. I like that. I think that's a good title. Gun Curious: A Liberal Professor's Surprising Journey into America's Gun Culture. And now you are that liberal professor, right?
That is me, yeah. I've been working on this project for about a dozen years now, and it initially started to write just an academic book, but I thought somewhere along the way that maybe I had a broader story to tell, but if I was going to tell a broader story, I really had to bring myself kind of to the center. So it does include a lot of my sociological observations on gun culture, but the weight of the story I try to carry, really with my own experience of not ever shooting a gun until I was 42 years old, and then spending the last 12 years of my life deeply involved as a gun owner and as a part of gun culture.
It's interesting. As a part of gun culture, were you begrudgingly, or did you come to enjoy it? Did you come to become a part of gun culture, or was it more of a, hey, this is research and I wouldn't do this unless I was doing this?
Yeah, the two things really kind of emerged at the same time. I mean, the first time I shot a gun, I wouldn't say it was begrudgingly, but it certainly wasn't because I, was interested in becoming a gun owner. I was sort of afraid of guns, but I kind of realized in North Carolina, that I might have been the only person who didn't have a gun or had never shot a gun. And so, the first time I shot, it wasn't with the intention of becoming a gun owner, but I had such a great time, fewer than 50 rounds, that at that moment I thought, I want to explore this further. So I entered into my, an authentic personal exploration of gun ownership, and at the same time began this sort of exploration of gun culture as a broader phenomenon. So, the book really tries to bring those two strands together.
It really is. In fact, there's a sociological term that I learned 100 years ago in college for when you immerse. Verstehen, is that what it is?
Oh, yeah, Verstehen is, sort of inside understanding. Yeah, it's a tradition of interpretive sociology. Yeah, that's very good that you remember that.
I'm amazing. I'm telling you, David. I'm a legend in my own mind. So, I mean, is this an example? If you immersing yourself in, is this an example of Verstehen? Is that what you were going for, or is that just what ended up happening?
Yeah, I think I thought all along, I didn't really kind of think through all the way to the end, because there's a sense in which, and you're probably not supposed to use this term anymore, but there's also this idea of going native, that you begin by kind of studying the foreign people, and then all of a sudden you're one of them. Because I think from the start I was always a gun owner. But I think that my goal has really always been to tell an authentic story truthfully and accurately and fairly about gun culture. And I think I just decided that, telling my own experience as a big part of that was the best way. And I've had a lot of really positive feedback from people who are in the gun community thinking like, I had pretty low expectations when I saw liberal professor in the subtitle, but I think he did fairly characterize, and, again, gun culture is hugely complex, and I'm not claiming that I've explored every aspect of gun culture. But for what I'm talking about, hopefully people who are involved in that can read it and say, that's a fair characterization, and, I want a friend or someone I know who's skeptical of guns to know something about guns, that I can recommend this book to them. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Well, I want to talk, because this isn't your only book, right? How many books have you written now?
Across all the fields I've worked in, probably 6 or 7.
And how many specifically on guns?
On guns. So I previously brought out my Concealed Carry Revolution sort of mini book. So yeah, this is the follow-up to the Concealed Carry Revolution book.
Okay, I want to talk about the book more and some of your experiences and some of the other things you've written. But let's go pay a couple of bills first. Okay, so we're talking to David Yamane. David, I love the name of I think it's a perfect title. I think you or somebody or a team or a pair, but there was some thought put into this. Gun Curious, a liberal professor's surprising journey inside America's gun culture. I think that piques like everybody's interest. I don't think it matters what side of the issue you're on. I don't think it matters, where you are politically. You read that and there's that piques everyone's interest. Talk about the title. How did you just pull it out of a hat, or did you spend a lot of time on that? Because I think it's perfect.
Yeah, well, I started thinking about it kind of conceptually, because in America we often say you either own guns or you don't own guns, right? This is a typical survey question: do you own guns? But if you look at the data, you actually find that about a third of people say that they do own guns, and about a third say that they don't own guns. But then there's another third of the people who are in the middle who say they don't currently own guns, but they're open to gun ownership in the future. So I started referring to those people as kind of the gun curious, and I think we saw a lot of those folks get off the fence about guns in 2020 and 2021. So that was the kind of initial impetus, thinking about these people who were open-minded about guns, interested in guns, but not yet committed. But then I wanted to push beyond that and say, really gun curiosity should be something that all of us have, right? We should want to know more. We should want to ask questions. We want to seek, not just rest on what we already know, but think about, what don't I know? And, that's, I think, for people who are, lifelong gun owners, and also people who are lifelong gun skeptics. So that was my idea of the audiences for the book would be anybody, whether you're a gun owner, whether you're a non-gun owner, or whether you're interested but unsure. Anybody who's curious about guns should find something of interest in the book.
Well, what's a little bit more, so your surprising journey, what's a little bit more about what was surprising? Talk about some things or something that was surprising about your journey.
Yeah, well, the most surprising thing at the start is that I took the journey at all, because given my background growing up outside of gun culture here in Northern California, and then having a sort of gunless, pretty much liberal blue bubble follow me all the way through my education and into my professional work as a sociologist, I just had no exposure to firearms in any sense other than seeing, some news story about someone getting shot. So I'm, the surprise that I even took the journey, but then, from there, the first surprise was, kind of getting to know other gun owners, seeing how guns work in society, and, coming up with this idea that I kind of turned into a motto that guns are normal and normal people use guns, right? And I think if you just read in the media, if you just read academic research about guns, you have no sense, that gun owners are people too. So, that was a second kind of big surprise for me.
I got to. You should come to Gun Prom in October, David. I'm certainly going to get you information and try to get you out here. That's our Second Amendment celebration gala that we have every year. And the reason is, if you look across the room, you're not going to see a lot of hunters. You're going to see a lot of normal people who do something normal, like own guns. You're going to see a lot of women. You're going to see ages, all ages represented. I think you're absolutely right. I think, and I've seen that firsthand. There's a lot of diversity in thought, a lot of diversity in, economics in our organization. There's a lot of diversity in every way you can use the word diversity. I think a lot of that started. I think the responsibility really lies on somewhere around 1990 when Florida started issuing CCWs, to anybody that could pass a background check. I think that really started to kind of solidify and grow this gun culture. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, a big background to my project is talking about this idea of the rise of gun culture 2.0, or the self-defense core of contemporary gun culture. And, for sure, there's always been an interest in self-defense and guns. There's also been always, diversity, women shooters, African-American gun owners. That exists for a long time. But the combination of sort of the growing interest in self-defense and the fact that we all have self-defense as a concern, right? Not everybody will choose an armed solution to the problem of insecurity, but we all have to come up with some solution to that. And so that's a really universal concern. So I think that really opens gun culture up much more than some of the things that are not really, restrictive or exclusive, but, if to hunt, there's a culture around hunting. You have to have space to hunt. If you want to do recreational shooting, you have to have space to do that. And so some of those things were more demographically, I think, and geographically restricted, whereas self-defense gun culture knows no such limits.
Hunting's kind of, it started out, kind of as a utility, and then it turned kind of social, and now it's exotic. You know what I mean? It started out with, we hunt, we have to eat. And then it kind of moved to this, I hunt because my uncles and my dad hunt, and they take me and we go drink beer and, hunt and whatever, and then now it's just, it's downright exotic. Like I don't know the numbers, but I would suspect that hunting is probably at an all-time low. And it really is not, it doesn't seem to be the driving force at all for gun ownership anymore.
No, yeah. I mean, a lot of people who are gun owners are hunters, but it's definitely not a growth market. Although, I think some interesting things are even happening within hunting to try to expand the reach of hunting. And, you get some of these farm to table kind of ideas in terms of people who are into food, and understanding and knowing where their food comes from. So I'm always surprised at when I come across some folks who say, "Oh yeah, I just went duck hunting." I'm like, "You hunt duck?" But it definitely is not obviously what it used to be.
Do you think that crime statistics have anything to do with the interest in self-defense in the United States?
Yeah, crime goes up and down, but I don't think that sort of the general, like something like the homicide rate or the rate of violent crime necessarily affects gun buying. But, bigger events, certainly, after mass shootings, then we generally see a spike in gun buying or interest in guns. And then, if you think about that year of 2020, and it has some similarities to other kind of gun buying sprees in recent history, it's just a lot of social uncertainty, right? So it's not necessarily a crime per se. It's like, hey, during COVID, if there's a problem, are the police going to be able to respond or not? Or, well, there's a protest down the street and it looks like it's getting a little out of control. That's a bit concerning. Or, man, we have this crazy presidential election. What's going to happen to our society after that? So I think some of those more general existential, concerns drive some of that. Of course, anybody who has a personal experience of crime, that's a different sort of thing. But the way our crime rates go up and down, and yet sort of gun buying is much more consistent.
And your book, does it read? Is it kind of a linear book, or is it you know what I mean, like first this and then this, or how does it read, or how's it set up?
Yeah, well, a little bit. I talk about how did I become a gun owner in the first place, and then I talk about this idea of recognizing the normality of gun ownership. I also talk about how I became what we might call a gun super owner. So, someone who owns more than 8 firearms. So
more than 8. So that's the definition.
I like it.
This is it's not a 100% accepted statistical definition, but it's one way of defining it. So
I don't think I'm a super gun owner.
I know a lot of people think of 13 guns as a good start, but trying to explain, like there's a lot of people that if you can't understand why someone would own one gun, you really can't understand why someone would own 10 or 20 or 100. So, I talk about that. I talk then about the AR-15, which is obviously a very hot button issue.
Yeah.
And then the next several chapters talk about concealed carry and, how do we understand, why people would want to have guns for self-defense, some things about negative outcomes, and then I kind of finish up with talking about my journey through the gun training community. So it's not perfectly linear, but it does sort of address issues, I think, the way I kind of confronted them in my own career as a gun owner, and how someone who may be interested in guns might think about the types of questions that they have about guns.
Now, you said that the term gun ownership is normal, and normal people own guns. Is kind of a is that a does the book set out to prove that, or is that just the result of the things that happened in the book?
Yeah. I mean, I think that is something that emerged in the course of my trying to understand the reality of guns in America. So I say it's more of an empirical observation than some sort of ideological claim. I mean, guns are normal, and normal people use guns in the sense that guns are very commonly owned by a lot of people, right? They're normal in that sense, and guns are not inherently associated with any kind of deviance or abnormality, right? So guns are also normal in that sense. So, those are the senses in which I use that term normal, and I do think of it as not being a kind of political slogan, but just an empirical observation.
So we're going to go to one more commercial break, and I just want to have you on for just a couple more minutes on the other side. Do you have a couple more minutes?
Yeah, absolutely. Love to do it.
Okay. All right, the name of the book is Gun Curious, A Liberal Professor's Surprising Journey Inside America's Gun Culture, written by David Yamane. He is the liberal professor who had a surprising journey inside America's gun culture. David, it sounds like anybody can read this book. You don't have to be on either side. You don't even have to have an opinion on guns at all. It just sounds like it's an interesting journey and a whole rich set of observations when it comes to gun culture, which is really amazing. What do you think? What do you hope this book accomplishes?
Yeah, I mean, I really, in the end, hope that it sort of brings a much more kind of enlightened and civil conversation about guns to our society. So having grown up outside of gun culture for most of my life, and then spending the recent part of my life inside, I kind of have a foot inside of these two worlds, and often find myself trying to, translate one side to the other. And so, I think, this, in a sense, can be read as, if I was translating gun culture to people who are trying to understand what it's all about, that this is what the core of the book is. So, getting people to talk to people with whom they disagree about this issue in a much more, civil manner, I think that would be, ideal. And I think that, again, if you're very pro-gun, you can read the book, see some recognition of the truth of guns in there. If you're, very gun skeptical, try to understand, why do guns make sense to people who own guns? And, people have to have the curiosity and the willingness to do that. And, I think gun owners have definitely responded positively. I've met a lot of people who are interested in guns and not committed, who are interested in the book. I'm still waiting to have that breakthrough among my non-gun owning liberal friends and colleagues who, they haven't exactly embraced the book as I might have hoped.
Well, David, I'd like to really commend you for, first of all, for being out there, for being a voice, for taking the time to put this book together, because you could have just silently changed your opinion and kind of kept it to yourself, but you chosen to go public and to let it be known. And really, as a gun owner, it really kind of gives hope that, what, I would imagine, being on the other side, that it's kind of taboo to say that you've kind of opened your mind to the option of the guns not being as evil and bad as you thought they were. And just kind of commend you for kind of getting out there and for being that voice, letting people know it's okay.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that, in certain communities and communities that I'm very much a part of, like, the university and sociology, and even, in the San Francisco Bay Area where I'm from, it still is somewhat stigmatized to be a gun owner. And early on, there was a part of me that was like, I can't really talk about this. Like, I'll just let people think, oh, he's just doing research about guns. He's not really a gun owner. But then at some point I realized, if I won't step forward and say, hey, yeah, I'm a gun owner, I'm a liberal, deal with it, and then also explain, why does this make sense? And a lot of people, I guess on the gun curious idea, a lot of people kind of came out of the closet after I came out of the closet. And,
out of the safe. They came out of the safe.
They came out of the safe. Perfect. Yes. I'll use that in the future. They came out of the safe and said, like, hey, I just, want to let you know I'm a gun owner too. Thanks. Or, hey, I was thinking about getting a gun, or would you take me to the range? People who, are not the stereotype of the gun owner. So I think that, we need, even if it makes us a little bit uncomfortable in certain circles, we definitely need to embrace that reality and say, no, this is not a deviant behavior. Yes, some people do terrible things with firearms. That doesn't make gun owners bad people. It doesn't make guns bad objects. So it took me a little while to get there, but hopefully, the book witnesses to that conversion I had, and that can be inspiring to some other people.
So if your book directly resulted in a 50% increase in gun ownership or a 50% decrease in gun ownership, is either of the would either of those results be okay with, or is it not about that at all? You don't care if more people own guns or fewer people own guns. It's really what you're trying to do is at least get them to impact or change the way they communicate with each other. You know what I'm saying? Would either of those results be something you'd like or dislike, or is it really just about the communication?
Yeah, I guess principally about the communication and education, because at the end of the day, I'm an educator. But, I think if it facilitates, people who are sort of good and sane people who should be gun owners to make that decision for themselves, and it makes their lives better, or makes their lives safer, then, I think that would be a win. But, I'm also, I'm not the kind of person who thinks everybody should own a gun. In fact, I know people who absolutely should not own guns, and so if there's someone who's on the fence and reads the book and says, wow, you know what, that's really not for me, or that's not a risk that I really want to, bring into my household or to my family, and they decide not to, then I consider that a success as well.
Good. That's awesome. Okay. Where do we find the book? Where do people go to buy the book?
Yeah, it's on, all of the major online retailers. You're not likely to find it at your local bookstore, but if you ask your local bookstore to order it, I'm sure they'd be happy to, or your local library also, often will order books if patrons want them. But Amazon.com is probably the biggest retailer out there, and then if you want information about the project in general, you go to guncurious.com, and it's got all the buying options as well as a lot of information about me in the book.
Great. David Yamane, guncurious.com. Is that what it is?
Guncurious.com.
Awesome. Hey, man, thanks so much. Appreciate what you do. I appreciate very much how you do what you do. And thanks for giving us the time, man. Thank you.
Yep. I'll always enjoy chatting with you all, and maybe I'll see you at Gun Prom one day.
Yeah, I'll send you info. Let's see if we can get you out there. That'd be fun.
Yeah, sounds good. Take care.
Thanks, Dave.
So I thought that was awesome, by the way.
Absolutely.
I love that guy. I think he does such good work, and I think it's so interesting what he's doing. Hey, so before we go to break, I wanted to shift gears and talk about our voter guide. Our voter guide will be out on August 1st, which is the Thursday that we send our email out. It'll be up on our website it'll probably be up actually the day before August 1st, but it'll be up on our website so that you can see it. I wanted to tell a quick story on why it's important. There are a couple of races that we're really focusing on. One, of course, is Jim Miller of Miller versus Bonta fame, the assault weapons case. He's also on the school board for Cajon Valley, and we want to make sure that he gets reelected, and because he's such a great guy and he does such a good job on that school board. But the other one is Kevin Faulkner, and he's running for supervisor out of this North Coastal District that goes down into San Diego, even goes into Coronado. And then it goes up into, like Encinitas and Del Mar, that whole area. So it's not an easy win. But with him on the county board, we'll have a third vote when it comes to Second Amendment issues, which on the county level there's actually a lot. And last week I wanted to tell a quick story. There is a group. There's actually a 501c3, a charity called Friends of the NRA, and they raise money for like kids programs, like shooting programs, Boy Scouts, stuff like that, women's programs, educational. It's a charity. And they were all ready to do their dinner, which is, kind of like gun prom, where, they, have prizes that are guns, that sort of thing. And the county said, nope, can't do it. You can't do it at this rec center because it's owned by the county, and there is a law, not a rule, not a policy, but an actual law that says, in the county, you can't have guns of any kind. No exceptions. CCW doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if they're being, under the control of an FFL. Doesn't matter if they're unloaded and locked. Doesn't matter. No guns. And it's a completely and totally unreasonable law. It's not keeping anyone safer. All it's doing is stopping some really great people from raising money to do some really good things. We need to get rid of that law. That's a law that is actually, impacting people's everyday life. It's not stopping people from doing bad things. It's stopping people from doing something very charitable, quite literally. So that's the kind of stuff that happens on the countywide level. You don't hear about this stuff because it's not national news, and CNN doesn't cover it. But this is stuff that's actually affecting your life here in San Diego, and so that's another race that we're really, really going to focus on is trying to get Kevin Faulkner elected into the county board. So we endorsed him. We're very proud of that. And we could need some help. You can't just vote. You can't just vote. We need you to actually do some things. We need you to donate a couple of bucks. We need you to come to Gun Prom and help us get people elected. If you haven't purchased your tickets yet, go to gunprom.com, and that helps us raise money to get people like Kevin and Jim elected so that we can do good things for the Second Amendment. So go to gunprom.com and buy your Gun Prom tickets. Volunteer to help us do our tabletops. If you go to our volunteer page, you can help us spread the word. August, September, and October is going to be very important. If you just vote, you're not doing enough. You got to help us get other people to vote the right way as well. So look out for that voter guide. Again, it's coming out August 1st. That's a Thursday. It's going to be in our Thursday email. Print it out. Use it to vote. Get it into your friends' hands. Volunteer for the tabletops. Donate. Come to Gun Prom. There's so much that you can do to help and actually be effective. Posting memes on Facebook doesn't do anything. Arguing with your crazy aunt who's anti-gun, that's not going to do anything. But actually participating in a Second Amendment organization, getting involved in elections that you can actually make a difference. This isn't a suicide mission. He could win. He absolutely could win in a tough district, and that would be a major, major victory for us. So get involved and check us out and keep an eye on your email. If you're not signed up to be a member yet, sign up to be a member and you'll start getting our email.
Thanks for watching this clip from Gun Owners Radio. If you're watching mainstream media, you're not getting the truth about guns. Gun Owners Radio is the easiest way to stay on top of the Second Amendment fight, the fight for your self-defense rights. You can watch our live stream on YouTube every Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. California time, or if you're in San Diego, AM 1170, FM 96.1, The Answer. We're also available on your favorite podcast platform. Just search Gun Owners Radio and you'll find our show. Like and subscribe to help defend and restore the Second Amendment, not just in California, but across the country.